If you ever read the book The Alchemist, it's an amazing little story by Paulo Coelho, who is also a Catholic. The whole story is about a boy who leaves his home, his humble little home, where he was a shepherd, and he ventures and has all kinds of experiences, good things and bad things, failures and fortune, because he's trying to get to this thing where he could find his treasure, the pyramids. And the whole story is about his adventures of getting to the pyramid. And when he gets to the pyramid, he's sent back home. And it was back home at a humble, broken down church that he found the treasure that he was looking for. He went all over the place trying to find himself, and he discovered that he was where he needed to be the whole time. The Catholic faith is the body of Christ. It's the church Christ established. And there are a lot of people that argue with that, and I like the fact that I can argue with people about it because it's true and I'm right. And it's very evident if you study the apostolic church and the writings of the early fathers and things of this nature. But there's a lot of schism and there's a lot of fighting, and that's okay too. Faith requires letting go of logic. And this is what happened with me, right? In terms of being Catholic, I stopped thinking about it. I stopped trying to be right here. And I was like, no, this is what I am. And then I accepted it. And then once I accepted it, it turned out to be right. Does that make sense? Once I accepted it, then I looked into it. I didn't look into the faith. I didn't choose to look into Catholicism. It was the last thing on my list. Honestly, I wanted to go everywhere except there. But once I settled and I was like, boom, okay, this is where I am. I look around what's going on. I was like, whoa, this is what I've been looking for the whole time. Everything. And I'm a deep guy. I'm a deep thinker. So it was like a lot of Protestant denominations bored me because it was too simple. Bible only. Once saved, always saved. And it was just, I need something deeper, more mystical. The Orthodox faith and the Catholic faith gave me that. It's rich. It's rich. If you're one of these guys who you enjoy the richness of things, there's no shallowness here at all. And that's why most people don't understand the Catholic faith, because it actually requires thinking. It requires deep thinking. And anyway, so I'm not trying to sell you the faith. I'm just telling you why I'm where I'm at. So, and then when you study the history, you realize, oh, it's actually Jesus's church. He established it upon Peter, which is the seat of Peter is where the Pope is at. We got a weird ass Pope too. Don't get me wrong. It's real strange. But you know what? Here's one of the things I'll say about the infiltration of the church. And so you guys who don't know should know that there was a great infiltration. And in the 1950s, they put over 1,500 Marxist, communist homosexuals in the seminaries in order to infiltrate the church. This was a Freemasonic plan to destroy the church from within. So we got a lot of guys in the hierarchy of the church that were plants. They didn't belong there. They stole it. But it's neither here nor there. You don't abandon Jesus. You don't abandon Christ because of Judas. Just because there's a betrayer in the midst doesn't mean that you stop being a disciple. Does that make sense? There are bad guys here, but guess what? There's bad guys everywhere. And guarantee you, if you go to any other religion, any other denomination, they're going to tell you that it's perfect. I'm telling you right now, the Catholic Church is not perfect, but it's very obvious. But every single one of them, they're going to tell you, oh, this is the best one, and it's perfect because X, Y, Z. They lying. Either they lying or they're deluding themselves. You're going to find fault in every single one. You would like to think. I had a couple Buddhist friends. And you think Buddhism, because, we got Mr. Miyagi syndrome here in the West, which basically means anything that comes from the East is ooh, it's different. So there's this draw towards the novelty of whoa. And so when I discovered Buddhism, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. I was into Hinduism. I was reading all that stuff. It was wow, anything except what I am, I want to learn about. So you call that Mr. Miyagi syndrome. So there's a lot of draw towards that kind of stuff. Where the hell am I going with that? I forgot. But, oh, yeah, I had a bunch of Buddhist friends. They're like, yo, there's a lot of bad stuff going on with the Buddhists. You wouldn't even imagine, right? You think they're all peaceful sitting under the tree, Bodhi tree with Siddhartha. It's not. There's a bunch of bad dudes out there too. And they were telling me about like some demonic stuff. Like they do a lot of like demonic stuff. I have Hindu friends that have told me the same thing, that they've gotten possessed by certain demons that their parents were like worshiping that came into them. So, but you have to make your own decision. And here's the thing. I was trying to say this before. Faith is about accepting without really knowing. And so what I'm going to say is going to be a total contradiction, but maybe it's what you need to hear. You got to choose logically too. Like my faith has to appeal to my rationale. It doesn't mean that I have to understand everything and that there are certain mysteries that I still miss. But based on your state in life, who you are, where you are, what's going on around you, you got to consider those things too. I would tell men this, and I know you come from a background where there was no faith. I tell men this most of the time. This is what I say to most men who are not sure what faith to choose. What was the faith of your father? And this is a good question for you too. What is the faith of your father? Whatever the faith of your father is, start there. If your father had no faith, what was the faith of your grandfather? If your grandfather had no faith, what was the faith of your great-grandfather? There must have been someone in your tree, in your lineage, that had a faith. If you don't know where to start there. It doesn't matter what it is. I think that's where you start. Because you'll have Christians that'll jump to Islam without even understanding Christianity. You'll have Muslims that'll jump to Hindu without even understanding Islam. You'll have Buddhists that'll jump to some denomination. My point is, don't abandon ship until you understand what ship you're in. Because you might discover, like I did, wow, I don't need to abandon ship. This is actually where I need to be. So look into your lineage. Look at what your grandfather was. And whatever he was, it was probably that for a reason, and be curious and look into it. And then start there.
Porn. 68% of church-going men watch it secretly, hiding this vice from their wife. For other men, it's alcohol or drug use. Are you willing to risk your marriage, family, and finances for sinful pleasures and vice? Or are you ready to fight back? If you're a married Christian businessman or entrepreneur, caught in the clutches of drinking, drugs, or jerking off, realize that every moment spent in these vices is literally destroying your life. Is this the man God called you to be? To live like this? If you're ready to go to war against vice and take your life back, here's my advice. Click the link in this video or visit waronvice.com to book a call with me to see if we're a good fit for going into battle together. I'll see you on the inside.